Hi everyone, my name is Bruno. I'm Fred's roommate
Yes.
and also a friend's friend for 4 years now.
It's a long time.
It's been a long time. We met in Jumpstart.
Yes.
Jumpstart is the orientation week here at UBC. What do you remember about that, Fred?
Jumpstart? Oh, a lot of things. One, it was hot. Two, the campus was huge. I remember walking on and being like, wow, like the entirety of UBC was way bigger than I remembered it, if only because I was like, okay, now I have to learn this. But Jumpstart in particular, I can remember it was the first day of like the orientation. We just got into groups and everybody at our orientation leaders were like, all right, just like go sit to somebody and like talk to them for 5 minutes. And I think you were the first person that I sat down next to.
Yeah, there was an activity. And
Fun.
yeah, I remember seeing Fred and just, I don't think we're going to get along, and look at us now. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Me.
Who would have thought? No, it's been a long time, but yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's going to be great to be the host today. The point of this podcast is just to get to know Fred and kind of like a different level.
Yeah.
We know him as the Orca Man, but today I just want you to get to know Fred through my eyes as one of his best friends here. So, honestly, like, I do want to start a little bit with the Orca Man.
Okay.
Just to,
Keep it
talk
on
about
brand.
something familiar for everyone. I just want, like, how has it been being an influencer? Because I would personally consider an influencer now with more than 6,000 followers.
Mm-hmm.
Have we hit the 7,000 now?
No 70,000 yet. We're still at 63, but
Yeah.
hopefully in the next couple of weeks
We're
we'll be able to push through.
getting close. I would consider you an influencer now.
Oh, thank you.
How has it been? How are you feeling?
It's definitely interesting. I'm slowly but surely like learning what it's like to have eyes on me. I know there are some people who have come on where I'm like not worried about them finding out about personal life or otherwise, but starting to really recognize like the breadth of reach that I'm starting to have and the impact as well. That's one thing definitely. I've talked with some even teachers that have been watching my stuff and their classrooms are super excited. I know a lot of people have been adopting orcas recently. And it's cool to properly see the impact that it's starting to have, because I couldn't have conceptualized what that would be like, and from the start at least, when I can remember when you initially said, hey, you'd be kind of good at TikTok. I didn't really think that it would come to the amount of engagement at least that I'm seeing now.
Yeah, no, it's definitely growing every day a little bit more. But yeah, no, I really want to build on that word you use, impact. And I would like to divide it into two parts. And then the first one is the impact that it has had on your immediate like circle. So like your friends, your family, how are they reacting to you being an influencer?
That's fair. I think my favorite like line when I knew that it was starting to be something legit was when my younger sister was jealous that I had 1,000 followers on TikTok and could go live. My first I was 63 now, but that first 1,000, as soon as I got the live feature, I was like, wow, this is really neat. And my younger sister was looking at me like, dude, like are you kidding me? I'm so jealous. Like, we have to go live when you come home. Like, I was laughing because I was like, oh, this is a big deal. This is something that people like properly search for. And at the time that I hit 1,000 followers, I wasn't aware of the impact that ability contained.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. It's very fair. Like, honestly, even myself sometimes, if you've gone to the live, the Orca Man does sometimes. I've been there a couple times speaking or just hanging around and talking to you guys.
Of course.
But yeah, and then like I guess my second question is about the other kind of impact, the impact that you're having on your followers, the people that you actually don't know in person.
Definitely.
And we're gonna talk more about this as the hour goes by. But I guess my first question is, how are you seeing yourself impacting the Orca community?
So there's a breadth of Orca people, as I'll call them, and I've recognized this even more so as I've gotten into influence like the realm in terms of the public realm. But I found it really funny because I'm interacting with people all across this weird spectrum, because I know one of my, I'll call them good friends now, Erica from Breaching Extinction. We've been having a lot of contact. I was like messaged today by the owner of Blackfin Coffee, Brian Jenkins, asking for a little bit of help in terms of a lot of the campaigns that are going on right now with the southern resident killer whales and the Snake River dams. So it's cool to currently have myself kind of solidifying a space in the Orca community as a reach for TikTok. Like, when they needed, like, okay, we're going to do a campaign to try to raise a little bit of awareness about this subject. They're like, hey, can you do the TikTok side of it? Can you get some information out? Which has been really, really cool because it's an area that I didn't expect to have that kind of power. So hearing that from other people, and then too, I've done a couple things so far, putting out content that has brought attention, awareness, and contribution to the campaigns themselves. Now, for the people who are on the other side of the spectrum that are really like, I watch Free Willy and I love orcas and they're like my favorite animal and I can't believe that anybody else is actually interested in this. It's really cool because I get to give them the experience that I had when I initially came in and had that same exact, other people like this stuff? And so I get to see that moment a lot, which is really, really cool. Even just today, there was one woman who's like, she posted a TikTok and tagged me, and it's like, when your friend sends you, like, remembers that you like orcas, and she sends you, like, a TikTok page that's completely dedicated to it. I'm like, that excitement is amazing to see as I'm going along, because I know for a fact that forever, as long as you'll do this, there's going to be children, adults, and anybody in between that are getting excited and then finding an outlet to share that excitement with people.
Yeah, of course. Like, honestly, like, before meeting Fred, I've met people that like animals and the environment.
Of course.
And, well, we all like the environment. But you know what I mean. They like specializing on sustainability. Mm-hmm. But I've never met someone that was so passionate about one species.
Singular.
Singular one. I gotta say that's a first.
Fair.
And I like, from what you're saying, like, it's not only that it's this very specific field, mm-hmm. but it's like you're starting to create interactions and connections.
Yeah.
In this very specific area of knowledge.
Yeah. No, it's a weird in between, because there's so many facets to it as well. Like, as one of the things I like to say about the species in general, and like what I'm doing right now, is that orca, like, in terms of niches, the killer whale niche is a pretty tight one. That being said, it's very broad in terms of the things it can do, and then, like you said, the interactions that can come from it even more so.
Yeah. I did want to ask you more about those interactions, because I'm gonna guess that those interactions have helped you to mm-hmm. get where you are right now.
Yeah.
How have they changed the way you thought about TikTok and the way you thought about the Orca Man?
Yeah, fair. So this is another thing too. When I initially started TikTok, I wasn't the Orca Man. So I put it in as the Orca Maven, and the idea with Maven, the word basically means like somebody who's very well read in any certain subject. So I was like, this is about the biggest like breadth of knowledge that I have about anything in the world. It's probably orcas. So I'm like, I feel like I could do that. And then the name Orca Man was given to me. Now that being said, like, since I've gone on, a lot of I'll call it the work that I'll do for conservation or pushing people towards different places with advocacy and otherwise, it's one like big goal of mine is I want people to come and get excited through me, and then I'll just basically shift them out into a lot of the organizations, people, and researchers that are, sorry about that, doing really good work outside. It's gonna stay like that. Sorry about that. For anybody on the video. Now, that being said, I'm seeing the Orca Man as a brand, so to speak, also growing to an extent, because I recently did a fax campaign. So basically, I put it out on TikTok. It's like, hey, write a message and your name, and we'll fax your messages to a bunch of officials along the Snake River dams to try to get them to take them down, to breach the dams, of course. And I had about like 4 or 5 people say, hey, do you need help with this? Like, is there anything I can do? And it got to a point where I didn't, like, I was sitting down for 4 hours a night, just like actively going through the spreadsheets, making everything organized in the way I wanted to. And after like 2 or 3 days, I was able to get like 4 or 5 people to like each do a separate part and do it very well and get everything together, so that by the time that I sat down to do it, all I needed to do was fax it out. So it was really the community coming together more than anything else as well. And they're like, I'm not getting paid for this. They're not getting paid for this. And so it's cool to see people getting excited and then actively putting in proper work for the whales, for something that they care about and otherwise. And that community, I want to say, has continued to grow as well. So the people that were helping me there, it's like I know for a fact they helped me out with the Free Willy Marathon, getting it set. Hey, maybe you could try this. They're helping me moderate my Discord, where we have over 150 people now hanging out, talking about orcas, getting a little. I think one of them has an adoption orca chart set up right now, so trying to get all of the southern residents in to see if we can't get it as a Discord together. So like that kind of thing, watching them kind of develop their ideas and create them a little bit, as well as helping me with any campaign that I'm doing. It's impressive to watch the community start to build. Start is the specific word there.
Yeah, for sure. No, after watching your content, it's like I feel TikTok has a wide variety of content.
Of course.
And I would like to put a line between the one that is more for fun and then one that is fun, but also it gives a little bit back, and it creates community and it creates interactions.
Yeah.
And I think that's the work you're doing, and it's really nice, honestly, to see. I
Thank
think
you.
that I sat down with Fred for part of the viewing.
Oh, yeah. The marathon.
Yeah, the Free Willy Marathon. I gotta say, it was my first time watching the second movie.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the other funny part. Like, before meeting Fred, I've never really watched Free Willy.
Of course.
Bits and pieces when I was a kid.
Yeah. There's no reason to continuously unless you.
Have you told him already how you started with Free Willy? Like,
I don't think so. No? I don't think I've told the full story actually.
I feel like that's a really nice story. Tell us about how you discovered the movie Free Willy.
Yeah, well, this is actually the origin of Orca, this is the origin of Fred in general, because I think it was around 2002, 2003, and you'll hear the story again when I have my mother on. But basically, my parents, they just had my younger sister, and so there was 4 of us now, and they had like some regular 4-door car, and they wanted to get a minivan, and so they went to the dealership and they bought like a 2002 Chevy Venture. It was like new minivan, super nice. It had like the DVD player and headphones that were Bluetooth. So like, oh, this is gonna be great. We have some family in New York, so like the 5-hour drives were gonna be fine. And because it had the DVD player, all of the like Chevy Ventures were Warner Brothers editions at the time, and Warner Brothers produced Free Willy. So the movie actually came with the car. So when my family got the car, they didn't really think about it. They're like, oh, this is gonna be great. We'll just like toss the movie in on our way home. And then they proceeded to watch it about 500 more times over the next 2 years. I was smitten for some reason. Every time that would be all I wanted to watch. And ever since then, it was just I wanted to become a killer whale trainer after that. And a lot of the developments that I've had just as a person going through life have been because of and towards the goal of working with or around orcas from that. And it's just the passion's never wavered.
Yeah,
since
that
then.
DVD was put on that player.
Yeah,
this part has remained.
Yeah, to say the least. This was my this is actually my college application essay. As my end line was, the Chevy Venture actually has and continues to open doors for me, or will continue to open doors for me for the rest of my life, which is insane.
That's awesome advertising, Chevy.
Well done, definitely.
Well done. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we left off when we were talking a little bit about who were you as a kid?
Yes.
Child. And this part I honestly asked mostly because I really like hearing about the support that you received as a kid.
Yeah.
And did you continuously receive throughout your adolescence and now as a young man? So
of course.
Tell us a little bit about young Fred.
Yeah, young Fred. What a ball of wonder. And quite literally, I think I want to say, because as a kid, I can say that I believed in a lot. That was the best way that I can put it. And when people talk about like, oh, you can become anything you want to or anything like that, like I believed that to my core with a lot of it. And so when I told my parents I want to become a killer whale trainer after seeing Free Willy and like learning to talk, they basically looked at me and they're like, okay, like this is how you do that. How you do that right now is becoming the best swimmer that a 5-year-old can physically be. And so as they moved along and kind of like one taught me at that time, like, okay, this is the basic path that you need to go on in order to achieve the dream that you have right now. as I grew older and as my intentions and more than that goals shifted, they as with their support shifted as well with along with it. They're like, okay, so now you don't want to do this. Like, how can we help you to think about, prepare yourself, and be as ready as you physically can to accomplish what you want to. And I want to say that I've held those ideas very, very closely. It's well, I think one of the things, even too, we've talked about opening up a number of things. I don't know, we were like, oh, we could do like a brisket cart. And the idea for that, I'm like, yeah, we could pull that off. like that's not a question. Not it's going to happen one day. But like something like that, like it's without a hitch. It's like, yeah, that's possible. And that wonder, it's not I wouldn't even call it blind optimism, because they've instilled also like it's going to take work to get wherever you're going to want to, and the way to do that is to understand the process and set yourself up as best as possible. So having a realistic view of the world while keeping that kind of like childhood wonder alive, that's one thing I got to say that I couldn't be more thankful for, and you just can't put a price on it.
Yeah, no, I gotta say, it was my first Christmas with Fred. We both couldn't go home because of COVID.
Yep.
This year. And yeah, honestly, your family does the most to keep the magic alive. I gotta say, we got a lot of presents.
That much is true. Santa showed up. Santa showed up.
That is true. Talk about Christmas.
Yeah.
And I think it's one that your viewers are really gonna like. What's your favorite Christmas present that you've ever received?
Ever? It's got to be my baby Alki. So Alki, she's a Southern resident. My parents adopted an orca for me. I think it was like 2012 or 2013, from the Whale Museum, and it was a total surprise. I knew nothing really about any of the wild killer whales around this area. I'd only really understood orcas in the realm of captivity. So as soon as I received the adoption package, it was an immediate connection and solidified in my brain and a fondness for this area, to say the least. But by far, it has not only been the greatest gift, it's the gift that keeps on giving, because now even you've been to the place where it was created.
So, and again, like, continue with like the support that your parents gave you. The first time you went to San Juan Island, it was also with your parents. I think it was your dad. Right?
It was with my dad. Yeah, that one. And this is to put on them even more. It's like the wonder is there so long as it's real or possible. Now, when I learned about Alki, I was like, oh my God, I want to go to the Pacific Northwest. Like this is the goal. This is where Willie was free. This is where the magic happens. And so when I was talking to my parents when I was younger, I was like, I want to go. And they were like, cool, pay for it. like we'll go. That's fine. I'd love to take you. We're not we don't have the ability to do that right now. So, but if you save up and you want to go on a trip with one of us, then we're fine. That sounds wonderful. And so for, I think it was like a year and a half or 2 years, I worked a couple jobs. I got enough money together for me and my dad to go for like a week and a half. And we went up and were able to explore the Pacific Northwest properly, and particularly San Juan Island. That's the place that we went to stay the longest. I worked with the Whale Museum a little bit, the place where the orca was adopted from. And it was great, actually, because on that trip, and I've talked about this a little before on this podcast, I actually got to see Alki.
Yeah. I remember that story. It's so nice.
It's phenomenal, and it's it's something that I said this before, and I'll say it forever. It's it's beautiful because of the chance, the sheer luck that happens in terms of all of the pieces coming together for that was more than I could have ever asked for.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure you've already heard the story of that first trip.
Oh yeah.
And you probably hear more about it and about more trips as more guests come to your podcast.
Definitely.
But I just want to put that number out there. How many times have you been?
All right, so San Juan Island, this is a great question. So the first time was 2014. The second time was when I came out here with my dad again to visit schools. My mom was very mad that she didn't get to see. And then the third time was when I came to UBC. And since then, I want to say, arguably in total, I've gone about like 18 times, and then 18 times since I've been here. So it's like 18 plus 3, so like around 21, like 2021, around there, which is
You're
absurd.
probably the most loyal tourist that San Juan Island has.
Yes, with no property or hold on the island, guaranteed.
Yeah, no, that last time we discovered some nice houses, nice places in
Oh,
San
they're
Juan Island. They're
beautiful.
beautiful.
It's
They're getting some
nice.
investment.
Yeah, yeah. If anybody's listening to this, us on there, I'd love to
We
say
have the
hello.
money. No,
One
honestly,
day,
it's getting really pretty. It is already beautiful.
Of course.
If you have a little marketing for San Juan Island too, if you have the chance to go visit and try the nachos at
Haley Sports Bar and
Haley's,
Grill.
go ahead.
That story is going to be coming out soon too. I when I was on the podcast with my dad for this first episode, that was actually how we ended it. It's like, oh, we'll leave the nacho story. That was going to be its own hour sometime later too.
Oh, you haven't talked about it yet.
I've like alluded to the nachos in general, and I've told everybody that I know to go get them. But the story itself has not been curated for public consumption yet. Yeah,
That's fair.
A special episode.
I'm not gonna dare to touch that. I will not
dare. Fair.
not a chance. So we've talked a lot about like the support that you've received from your parents.
Yeah.
And how about the support that you have received outside of TikTok, without counting TikTok interactions?
Of course.
Talking before. How about the support that you've received from, let's say, people from the Whale Museum?
Sure. Yeah. This is actually really interesting, and I'm gonna imagine too. This is like people into the general Orca community as well, which is a fantastic thing because the Orca community runs very deep. The Whale Museum itself, I've reached out to a bunch of times, and I worked with them a little bit when I went that very first trip. Since then, I've gotten to know a couple people at the museum, and then more recently, actually, I've talked to one of the GIS coordinators. So she's in charge of a lot of the sighting specialization stuff, and I talked to her when I was developing a database for the southern resident killer whales, as well as a couple other ones. And in talking with her, it's been wonderful. Like, she's shot a bunch of questions my way, especially to like trying to get different databases together, especially since that's the heart of my degree. So it's very fun to be in constant communication with them. And then I'm excited too because since this Orca Man platform is so new, I haven't quite brought it to their attention yet properly, especially too, I know she's had a lot of projects coming recently, getting together sightings reports from the past year. So that's actually a conversation that's going to happen, and I'm very excited for that. In terms of the Orca community outside of it, it's been really, really fun to learn more. Let's say every time that I've kind of stepped into this community, it's grown a little bit bigger in my mental perception of it. And I'll start specifically like last summer, actually, and I'm going to thank you a couple times during this, actually, because last summer I was sitting down, I was reading Jason Colby's book, Orca, How We Came to Know the Orca, How We Came to Know and Love the Ocean's Greatest Predator. I also need to work on enunciation. I was gathering a bunch of data, and you told me to reach out to the author. You're like, he might have this. And that led me to take the best university course I could have ever imagined. And that was environmental history of the Pacific Northwest with Jason Colby, actually, at the University of Victoria, which was phenomenal. For my final paper for that, I got to interview John Ford, who's one of like the father of orca acoustic research for my college, like one of my college papers. And something like that was just, it's invaluable. And the support that he's given me definitely in trying to develop the ideas that I had, especially with the projects beforehand. And then even right now, he's been very excited about my continuation of it has been more than I could ask for. And then more recently too, once I started TikTok, I began to kind of step into the realm of Orca people that are doing pseudo the same thing. So I know Kendra Nelson, or Intertidal Kendi, has been a wonderful friend throughout all of this. And then other people like Erica from Breaching Extinction, and then Brian Jenkins, as I might have mentioned earlier, but he's from Blackfin Coffee. I've become like fairly good friends with them over time. I feel like I have a little bit of a community down in Monterey right now. Even just the 2 or 3 people that I do know, it's become very familiar, and they enjoy and appreciate the work that I'm doing. And then even more so, I've seen some of them do their things for 2+ years now, and it's wonderful to one enter it, but then two be absolutely welcomed in, which is special.
Yeah, no, I think I already said it. I'll say it again, and maybe one more time as well. The most impressive thing I think is the amount of connections that you're creating. It's really surprising. To me at least.
Yeah,
I
fair.
didn't know. I didn't know it was that big.
No, it's wild.
Yeah, for one species.
Yeah.
Like for one species, it's a really big community. It's bigger than you think.
Oh, of course.
And yeah, I know it's just amazing, and how it has grown exponentially with the publishers.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the coolest parts as well too. It's like it's growing right now, and even so, like I'm very excited. I have yet to properly introduce myself or speak to people on like the PNW protectors. There's the co-extinction film that's coming out that I'm really, really excited to see, and I'd love to hear a little bit about what they're doing. And otherwise, I know I really appreciate a lot of the work that they've done. March for the Dams, and so it's fun too because even where I'm sitting now, there's even more people in the field that I'm like excited to interact with still. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like it's big now, and it's going to be even bigger. I feel like as I go forward.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. Especially with TikTok now, like it motivates you to go even farther than your bubble.
Exactly. No, it's very special with that.
No, it is. I also wanted to ask, because we've talked a lot about the community that is here, that is in North America.
Yeah.
How about outside North America?
So that's fair. Outside North America it's an interesting setup. There's a couple major players, as I'll call them. I know Eric Hoyt currently is out in somewhere in the UK, but he's doing work with orcas up there, I'm pretty sure, as well as a lot of work with there's like a Russian orca project. So he's working a lot with them as well. I know there was a couple whales that were captured, and I think he helped with that as well. So he's got a lot of the north and very northeast realm of the world when you're looking at it. So like the West Pacific, so to speak. So the Russian belt. But then also too, one of the coolest things that I'm excited for is like there are orca projects literally everywhere around the world. Like there's a Northern Indian Ocean project or orca project, and then a Sri Lankan one. And then there's also like a bunch in the Falkland Islands that are doing work just like south of Madagascar, and also the Crozet Islands and the Galapagos. And there are some researchers in Patagonia that are very particular to those species. I haven't quite gotten the realms exactly set in my head. So in terms of the major players that I know of, at least it's Eric Hoyt, and then Dr. Ingrid Visser is a huge component in New Zealand. Yeah. She's the Orca Research Trust, yeah, particularly. So she's doing a bunch of great work down there. But it's even more, like you said before, and it's more to expand into and to educate people about as well, because that's one thing that people don't completely understand when they think about orcas. Even when I was a kid, I thought specifically, the Pacific Northwest and SeaWorld, like those are the two places. But seeing it expand from there and seeing the research opportunities that are present, or the research organizations that are present to engage, inform, and then also contribute to, that's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean, right? The community's bigger than you expect.
Everywhere around the world.
Yeah, the reason I want to talk to you especially is because I also want your viewers to see, like, if there's content, if there's someone that knows about content and connections.
Oh, look at you plugging for me.
Right?
He's too kind.
Just ask him.
And I'm here, and definitely too. There's a bunch of cool stuff that's going on that like you don't see in other places of the world. I know Norway has the only. Norway is like one of the only areas where they have like a swim with orcas in the wild program, which is insane. But I'm more than interested to start to learn more about all the things that are going on.
No, absolutely no. That's another thing I really like about your content. Mm-hmm. It's just not talking about orcas and things that you Google. It's years of research.
Yeah.
This is what you're producing is the outcome of years of passion and research and dedication to create a community. It goes far beyond of just one day doing a platform. And that's what makes it very, very special.
Thank you for that, truly. And then that's what it's a hard thing to kind of communicate as well, especially too. Like I know I've tried to do it a little bit, but that's like another half of it is the stuff that I'll try to speak to is stuff that I want to say that I know pretty well. It's like I'll take the bedrocks of my knowledge and try to use that to the best of my ability. And then as I'm growing, hopefully have the followers and whatever else, whatever other communities I can create, learn with it.
Yeah, can create and will continue to create. I'm very sure. Very sure. But yeah, no, that was one of, for me at least, one of the main goals for today. Just like getting that part out of like what is the story behind the platform you've created.
Yeah.
And now I think that another very useful, let's say, life lesson
Okay.
that you had, I think, will be useful, especially for people that are about to go into universities.
Yeah.
Talking about your university experience.
Oh, special.
How you thought about it, how it changed during the first year, and how it has continued to change since then.
This is a great topic, and thank you properly for giving me like setting this up, because this is a fun story.
It is. It really is.
It's changed extremely. I think we start with first year then.
Yeah.
Start from the very beginning. I came into the university as an 18-year-old looking to do marine biology and some sort of science, like marine biology, oceanography. I'm like, I just need a degree in ocean science. Then I took chemistry and said, no, maybe that's not the
number was of chemistry.
56, I think, or with like the number of the class. Oh, it was chemistry 121. Chemistry 121. The demise. I have never failed a class. I think that was the closest I was to.
You were able to finish your university degree without failing.
I was able. I'm very proud of that. Yeah, thank you. And there's a lot of people I've seen who are like need to retake. I think that was my biggest like win. I grew up as a straight A B student in high school, and then immediately came to university and went, ha, 6 points away. Okay, I understand where I am now. So my perception and idea about what I wanted to do started to shift around then, especially too because I was in the faculty of arts and not sciences, so it wasn't a terrible switch to try to go into a broader field, because I knew I didn't want to do hard sciences. So I was very happy that I was in the faculty of arts in the front as well. And in that first year, I think I took like 2 geography courses just because. And then that summer, I was in the car with my dad. I was in the car with my family, and my dad said, like, hey, you should like think about GIS. Like, I feel like it's a software that, like, I feel like it's the way you think and the way you understand it. And so I said, okay. And I looked a little bit into it and databases and database management, because that's all really GIS is, geographic information systems. It's basically the like spatial database software. It's used for a whole number of things. But when I started to learn a little bit more about it, he was exactly right. I really liked the way that I could conceptualize ideas, data, like places and things like that. And I took a GIS course in the start of my second year. And that was actually when I met my favorite professor at UBC properly, Dr. Michael Meitner. He was my Cons 340 GIS professor. And I think right after that, I started talking to him about creating a killer whale database. And so that's where I want to say my biggest shift started to happen, because as a child, I was like, oh my God, the only place I can go is, or the only place I want to go is to train killer whales. That's the goal. And then it was research. I'm like, research is the only other option, right? Like there's nothing else. And then I entered into these courses, and I began to think about the industry differently. As soon as I began to see the databases, I saw a lot of potential in it, at least in the visualization and organization of all of the information that we do hold on orcas. I was saying before with Alki, when I got Alki, she was the first she was the first whale that made me think of all of the whales as individuals. Yeah. I began to really understand them as characters in this large story. And so when I began thinking about the database and started working in my second year, I was beginning to think about each of the whales individually and their histories and how they connected and how I could connect people to them. And which is where I think, was it second year that we did Pure?
Yeah, I was glad you mentioned it.
It was necessary. It was necessary.
Yeah.
Because I'm not entirely sure I don't know where I found it. But basically, Pure was like the program for undergraduate research experience. And it was like held through some UBC department. And they wanted to, and they basically were looking for proposals for research projects that they wanted to fund. And they had all this money to do it. And so I came to Bruno actually. So this I'm gonna speak to you guys now. You know the story. So I came to Bruno and I was like, dude, like I have this idea, and it was just this behemoth of a project. Like I wanted.
You had no idea what you wanted.
I had no idea. I knew I wanted to do everything. I was like, I want to do the biggest thing possible so that one of them might work. And I wanted to go into the history, and I wanted to go into creating connections with like from people to the actual whales themselves, and I wanted to do like a whole setup of everybody that's currently working on them and things like that. And it was a very, very advantageous proposal, to say the least. I remember at the very end of it, I was like staying awake in your room on the floor after you like going through writing the literature review that you've tried to get me to do for about 2 weeks.
You didn't want to make a literature review
for the proposal.
Anyone that does research right now is laughing.
Yeah, they should be, rightfully so. I was a dumb I was like 19, 20 then. I was a dumb 20-year-old.
I was also 20-year-old.
I said I was a dumb 20-year-old.
No. But I did want to mention that project because I do feel that it changed the way that you saw how you could use research for what you love. Because I remember you before, and I'll let you speak on this.
Yeah.
How did you look at research before we did that application? That was an absolute failure, by the way. If you were wondering what happened, it was an absolute failure.
It was hysterical. I love the responses. They were great. We did.
And that's what I want to ask. What changed? How did you view research before?
Yeah. So this is very fair, and this is where it gets really, really casual and fun, because after I swore off research after taking chemistry, I was like, research is stupid. And I said that continuously all the time, and I said that specifically for myself because I was like, there's no impact that I can actually have with research. Like I can't envision a route where I do research and like people or the whales are like better off for it. It was so distant in my head, that connection. And then the project shows up, right? So the project shows up, and I'm very happy because I started to think about research, one, outside of like purely hard science research. So rather than get data analysis about like whale poop, and then you try to figure out what's in his stomach and things like that, are they eating well enough? And I was like thinking about it more in a geographical sense or more of a spatial sense in terms of how do you connect people to the animals, and how can you connect the community to each other, both within and to all of the people, like I've talked about before, that are just interested and didn't know that anybody else was excited. So I saw research as an avenue to do that, and then more than that too, to further explain all of the story that's come to culminate, which actually helped during this year when I took the course with Jason Colby, or Dr. Colby. But it definitely did. I had a very big sit down with myself at that point in time and said, I can see personally even how I could enter the research community and have it be effective, which is a learning experience of itself. That class, it wasn't classes that taught me that. It was putting in that pure application. It was a long app. I have to look up because I'm pretty sure I have all that paper as well. Like I have all the responses that we got as in and the rest. I wish I could talk to the people who did it.
Oh yeah.
Just the people to read it.
Oh, I know, like it was hilarious. I remember you gave me the draft. It was like a 2-pager. I was like, Fred.
It's like, buddy.
it was like a story.
Yeah.
An application. I was like, we have to change it. we did it. But honestly, I was very happy with the final thing.
For two 20-year-olds, like for two 20-year-olds, one with like half an idea and another with the idea of like how to put these things together. I want to say that we did pretty well for what we had.
Yeah, for what we had, I think we did. We were competing against also, like, I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
There were some hospitals and clinics participating. I was a residence advisor back then, and one of my colleagues was working for the Vancouver hospital, and she told me, "Oh yeah, we applied as well."
I was like, "Oh, this is real!" Like,
I had no idea. I thought it was for undergraduates.
I thought it was students. That was not the move, apparently.
We're competing against some very important
it's also impressive to an extent, like to be able to say that we did, no matter what, we did apply. We went through all of the specific processes. We were candidates. Maybe not great ones, but we were.
No, that's hilarious. And I do remember that you were talking about your second year class.
The GIS one.
Yeah, and I remember the first graph you made, like the first map you made. That's a beautiful map. Oh, I still remember that map.
That's huge. That's huge. It was really, it was interesting to be able to create something, because especially too in all the other classes you create like papers or you create papers. But to be able to visualize something effectively, that was a good time. I'm happy you remember. It's on a file somewhere. It's probably on this flash drive.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a task. You're gonna go find it here.
Yeah, we're gonna add it.
You're gonna add it to the video.
I'll see what I can do. I've come a long way. I promise. To any. Oh yeah. Well, and that's the fun part too. Is like for any employers, I promise I've gotten better. That was my first course.
That was the first course of GIS.
Yes, precisely.
And then so now that we're talking about research and everything,
yeah,
I do want to talk about Project Sonic.
Yeah.
How much have you told the viewers about Project Sonic?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay. They know nothing.
Yeah. What is Project Sonic?
Project Sonic was pure 2.0. Project Sonic was like, I took pure, I was like, this is super cool. I'm gonna do it anyway. Because I really like what the thing that we proposed was basically like this big website that had everything and anything you could want to know about orcas on it. And Project Sonic was the idea of compartmentalizing it a little bit smaller, doing it in ways that me and then any community that I could build were able to aggregate and present different kinds of information. And Project Sonic, I think, like when I initially started it, the idea was a couple different things. I wanted to create a website with a database of orcas that you could stream through and properly see all the information and the match lines and explore it as data, just to try to feel a little bit closer to it. Because when you go into ancestry.com, it doesn't show you like every person in their own little profile. It shows you a tree. It shows you a story. And I wanted to tell that story in that way. So Project Sonic initially was that, and then like I came up with another idea for an app, where it's like a sightings app where you can learn the whales that you're seeing or something to that effect. Because as I've gone through my university degree in my head, like I've understood a little bit about computer science and a little bit about like cartography, what GPS actually allows, and then the sharing of information. And especially with applications, I'm like, I know this can exist. Like I can envision something where like this could properly work. And so it was extremely far out in the beginning, but I got a little crew together in the start to try to get a lot of this information together. I know we used for Pure, we got a team of 8 or something like that. So that was an initial start. I'm pretty sure it was us 2 and all girls too. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it was Darcy was there.
Darcy, Valley, Yulia, Danny, and then Eunice was also there. There was a bunch of people. There's a bunch of people. We were like 7 or 8 that were going to do the research project, particularly. Which, if any of you guys are listening, thank you so much. That was huge in the start. And then once I started Project Sonic itself, I was just looking for other people to get on board, and that was actually, this is super cool because I never thought about this. So, wow. So I was doing Project Sonic, and I was just gathering the information by myself, and I was curating the information on the Southern residents. And then I moved in with my buddy Nick, and Nick was living with Munashe. And so, yeah, so I moved in with my buddy Nick for 3rd year. It was the end of 2nd year into 3rd year. And then there was another guy that was living with us at the time named Munashe. And Munashe, like, one day his other friend Cam showed up, and me and Cam are now great friends as well. And Cam sat down. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was telling him a little bit about Project Sonic and like the idea and the data and things like that. He's like, "Okay, like bro, this is insane." He was so excited about it, especially too because I was getting all animated. I'm like, "Oh, this is really cool and exciting," and I think that there's like a lot of things that we can do with it. So he sat down. He's like, all right, like, do you need help? Like, is there like are you doing like web dev? Like, I'd love to like sit down and like get into that stuff. And so I started working with Cam and Munashe, and I never put that together in terms of the beginning. I never consciously thought about it, but it was living with Munashe and then having that initial connection where it was me, Cam, Munashe, and then Darcy actually that were starting to.
Was Kenny there too?
Kenny wasn't there at the start.
Oh, okay.
Kenny wasn't there. Kenny came in. Kenny came in this year, like end of third year, because the end of third year, I was still living with. I was only living with Nick. Munashe had moved out. But we were meeting pseudo consistently, and whenever we get together, we get a decent bit of work done. Um, but they would work on the app, and Cam was working on the website with me, and I was trying to get all the databases together to make sure that they could communicate effectively. Um, and that was also we have a desktop, like a tower in our living room right now that we were tinkering with it. Before that, I was trying to just get into it to like run as a server to run the website on. And that was a whole disaster. But that was so Project Sonic then turned into creating the website and the app in particular, which I was super sad that COVID ended up coming, particularly in the beginning of our first semester this year, because Cam and I were working fairly consistently trying to get the website together, and I know Munashe and Kene were working together on the app trying to get the base of a sightings app together so that could work really well. So that's a bunch of different projects that have currently led to the one that I have right now, and I want to say Project Sonic for more than anything else. Project Sonic and then Pure as well. Like it solidified for me that I could get people excited enough to do something.
Yeah.
And so as we're playing around with the website as of right now, it's more of a for fun thing than anything else. I think I'm going to use the Orca Man as my next stream as we talk about shifting in every single way from Pure into Project Sonic, and then now into I was like, I want to get people excited about orcas by connecting them to them. Like, okay, now I'm just going to get people excited about orcas and we'll go from there. Let's bring it down to its absolute base and start building something properly that can grow. Because as much as the website could have, neither Cam or I are web developers. Putting something out that would be anywhere close to useful was a decent way down the line. So I'm happy to see it shift, and then more than that too, the conversations and the things that we've learned. I now know how to basic code a website, which is more than I could have asked for from any course or any friend sitting down till 3 a.m. messing around with this stuff on. But having Cam, Munashe, and Kene, and then even more so Darcy and all the girls for Pure, like get interested, engaged, and properly want to give their time. It was a real like reaffirmation that if I really want to create something and I have it well enough, it's possible. I can build the community.
Yeah, I can imagine that probably in a couple of years, Project Sonic is gonna keep going.
I could imagine. There's a lot of plans that I have right now, and even ideally we'll see when this goes up. I'm planning on starting the idea of being able to maneuver yourself around information about the Orca realm on TikTok. That's my first setup. So the rabbit hole is either out right now or going to be out, and it's the first edition, so to speak, of this broad web that is in essence Project Sonic that I plan to create.
Yeah. So Project Sonic was just at the end. It was identifying orcas and then being able to tell a story about those orcas.
Yeah, it's fine. It's figuring out a way to tell the story to people and get them to care even a fraction of how much I did when I got Alki.
Yeah, now that you're translating it to TikTok with the rabbit hole.
Yeah. So the rabbit hole is the first edition, and then ideally too, I'd love to create that same kind of thing for YouTube, because this is another thing too, is people can be as interested in the species as they want to, but you said it before, it's huge. It's absurd how much information there is, how much base that you need to have in order to enter even to some real conversations with researchers or conservation agencies. And if I can provide some of that groundwork in terms of hey, this is the lay of the land to a lot of people in an entertaining and fun way.
Yeah.
It's a rabbit hole that I could see Alessio go, when your friend going down on a Saturday because he's bored.
Yeah. No, that's really useful content, honestly, because at least making a comparison. I'm a very passionate cook, And
Yes.
when I go into YouTube to learn about cooking, I like to see content that like actually builds my understanding
Yeah.
of the topic. I just don't like to see like YouTubers cooking. No, I like to see professional chefs
Yeah.
and learn what they do. And then that has led me to actually have real conversations with professional cooks about food, and they're like, wow, you like actually know about this.
Yeah.
And like that's the magic of YouTube and like social media right now, that with the right content being put out, like you can have amazing conversations with professionals about the topic.
Yeah, without 100%. And like I was able to talk intelligently with Jason Colby this entire semester about the history of Orca, the history of how we came to know and love the Ocean's Greatest Predator. I was able to speak to him about his book intelligently from information that I had outside of his book. And this is the thing too, it's like if you being able to get somebody to the point, like I can only imagine if you were able to talk to any of the creators that you've been watching and you tell them like I have not only been able to grow as a chef, I've been able to grow as a person in terms of my connections, my community, and otherwise. Like that's anything a creator could ask for.
Yeah, no, honestly, yeah, it's really, that's the goal at the end of the day, just that part of the communication,
Yeah,
being able to transmit a message and knowledge is the goal.
it's teaching a man to fish at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It is. I do want to go now, like a little bit, go back to university.
Hey, right.
I want to bring it back. How was a typical day for Fred at uni?
Typical day for Fred at uni. Well, I'm a I'm a busy bee here. I'm gonna use well
Before COVID.
before COVID, of course. Well, yeah, I can give you the COVID one. I get up, I sit down, I do work, I play a little Rocket League, and I go to bed. Or that's what happened. It was great. I had a couple meetings. In general, though, so I show up on campus. I'd have like one or two classes usually. My favorite thing was, as anybody else, I would walk around campus, and I was relatively connected. So just seeing a bunch of friends along the way was always nice. During lunch, so get up in the morning, go to campus. Usually I just go to the first class immediately, get that done. After that, it's usually grabbing lunch around one of the places. I know like our this is a memory that is just solidified just because it's happened so much, like Grand Noodle Emporium at G&E.
If you go at UBC,
G&E. Necessary. It's in the basement of the Nest. It's wonderful. Get a brisk. It's combo B.
Combo B.
With a Coke specifically. Hanging out on the steps outside of the Nest, and then finishing up whatever classes. And then as it gets into the later halves of the night, I know one of my favorite things throughout university has been the calendar. So for the past, I think it was 3 years now, on Tuesdays we'd have meetings, but on other days we'd be doing anything and everything under the sun. I know last year for Valentine's Day, I went around dressed as Cupid and delivered coronations to different people, and then like saw them at the party, like a party that we put on later that night, and they were so incredibly happy and excited. I'm like, oh my god, you made my day, X, Y, or Z. And so it's like those kinds of things are always great as well. But like working with the calendar at night, trying to dream up how we could make campus more animated, how we could give back to the campus community a little bit in terms of animations, parties, or the like bigger events that we put on, like Winter Classic or Homecoming. And then at night, well, it was a whole number. Either going to somebody's house, going to a bar, coming back home and watching a movie, like properly going down, and studying. Studying is very important. That's another thing too. It's one thing I really enjoyed about like some of the nights too, is there's a lot of spaces that you can study on campus late into the night as well.
Yeah, you can.
Like I remember spending a lot of nights in forestry, which was so beautiful. It's one of my favorite places on campus. And then there's every so often I just sit down with a GIS lab for about 10 hours in one of those labs. I got very, very comfortable in those chairs.
Forestry?
No, that's the geography building itself.
The geography.
Well, yeah, because I only did my first course in GIS at within the like Department of Forestry, and then all of the other GIS courses that I took were through geography itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I used forestry course equivalent.
No, yeah, that's fair. Yeah. That's fair. And then, out of like this 4 years, what has been like the biggest obstacle that you encountered at UBC?
That's a good one. The thing about the university itself is that it's so big and it offers so much. I think one thing that I'm sitting down now, and I'm very happy with how I navigated it, but it was definitely the weirdest thing going through, is deciding and actively engaging in the stuff that I wanted to do, and like properly. And this changed, and I did something different every year. In my first year, I want to say Quidditch was my biggest one. I joined the Also, UBC is a Quidditch team. It's massive and super fun and like weirdly legit.
You won a medal.
Well, I won a medal. Yeah, we won Western regionals. Yeah, I was the keeper. You can watch that game on YouTube.
if you're making fun of him because he was in the Quidditch, do you have a medal?
Do you have a medal?
Do you have
Did you get out of physics class to go to regionals? I don't think so. But that was an integral part of my first year. So deciding to do that was massive. And then getting into my second year, deciding to do calendar was huge. It really changed my social circles. It changed the way that I perceived the university and how I interacted within it. And it grew my appreciation for a lot of the traditions that we have as well. Once I hit third year, it was really starting to engage with the academics and the research side of it. This is like end of second year, we hit pure and put in that application. And then I started thinking about Project Sonic seriously. And at this point in time, like I steered away from Quidditch. It wasn't as particular anymore. And then this year, more specifically, like diving into the Orcas specifically in the first semester with regard to Professor Colby's class, as well as now with the Orca Man. So actively determining in each semester, every like term or things like that, what it is that I wanted to put energy and effort towards. It was always the crux, the hardest thing, because it slips very easily, as we all know. I know I'm sitting here at the end of 4 years. You're sitting here at the end of 4, staring your last year in the face as an undergraduate. So I knew the breadth of those decisions, and I want to say that was by far the biggest hurdle, so to speak, was trying to conceptualize and then determine.
Yeah, no, it's hard. There's a lot to do at UBC.
Yeah.
Like if you want to, there's everything out there for you.
There is.
Yeah, there really is. And like with that, like honestly, it's like wrapping up like that second point I really wanted to get out is that it changes, right? Like what you can have a passion, but that passion changes so much. You talked about how you saw it as a kid, how you saw it when you started university,
of course,
your first year, and then how every year it builds differently to the ultimate goal that you probably don't know right now. Like,
no, yeah, I still have no idea. Well, and this is you were saying this before. I know. I'll actually link this video. One of our friends, Tanya, she created the video for you in terms of your cooking. It's like the end goal is great, but the end goal is really just becoming better, becoming the process, becoming like enjoying continually growing and changing and figuring out better ways to do whatever it might be. So with you, it might be how to make the best reg or the best burger you can possibly imagine, from the buns to the ingredients to how long you cook the meat, where you cook it, and otherwise. Whereas like with the Orca stuff, it's like, how can I engage the community? What parts of it do I want to learn? Like, I'm going home. I have 3 books that I haven't read yet. And then I have even more that I'm looking to go for afterwards. And so it's the journey of it that I think is the most fun, because it's where the fun lies.
Yeah. So if you're going to university, don't worry about it too much.
Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the
ride.
It's
it's all the journey.
It's all about the ride, and it's changing, and it's malleable, and
it's so malleable.
Don't stress too much.
No. If you, and that's the other half too. It's like take the steps towards what you want to do. And like, this is the thing. The calendar opened up for me on the last day of my first year. On the last day of my first year, I was hanging out with a friend before he left. He introduced me to a friend that he had down the hall. I ended up hanging out with her for the night. Like, we went, got dinner, and then she was like, the next semester, she was like, "Hey, I think you'd really like this club." And then I joined it, and then this year I was the external director. I was like one of the highest positions on it. All because I was hanging out with one friend, and she was like, "Hey, I think you should try this." And so that's another part. It's like, give everything a little bit of a shot. If you're interested, it's worthwhile to dip your toes in, because you never know what might happen. Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, and now more of like a fun question about university. What was the best party memory you have?
Best party memory? Oh, Um. Okay. So for like context for a lot of people too, I when I on the calendar at UBC, it's an entertainment organization basically where or it's a university culture organization. So we'll try to give back to we give back to the community in a number of ways through the big events like homecoming, winter classic, and activations on campus. But we also throw pretty great ragers, pretty solid. I thoroughly enjoyed all of them. Um, my favorite party experience. I'm going to give you three. Three that really stand out. And then it's super quick. Each of them are super small. The first one was the party after regionals of Quidditch. So we for Quidditch regionals, we went to Calgary. It was a 14-hour road trip, and it was the first time that I drank legally in university because I was 18 in Alberta. All of these, I was legal. Also, that's another huge thing to know because I was 18 in Alberta at the time. We did regionals, and that was just a phenomenal night. The second one I would say was I think it was Halloween my sophomore year or sophomore or junior year, where we had leftover fireworks from the from calendar retreat, and I went outside and they have these solid cups. They're right here. They have these solid cups, and if you light like one of the firecrackers that we had, it's super small inside it. It looks like a big trophy. And I remember seeing that, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And I posted arguably the best Instagram post I've ever had that said, "What's in your cup?" Just because I thought it was hysterical. So figuring that out and enjoying that with friends was huge. And the last one, in terms of parties specifically, I will. There is no parties that I think I will have like come to remember more than those are the calendar retreats. So for the calendar, every year we every once a semester we go to a cabin about 3 hours away, and we spend a weekend getting to know each other, coming up with like different ideas for how we can improve campus and partying our butts off. But those nights were wild and fun and just the epitome of what I imagined my college experience to be as a child growing up with movies that were like, oh my god, this is what it is. So I want to say that those as a whole were one of my biggest party memories from university.
Yeah, no, I want to ask because like definitely like UBC is great.
Yeah,
but like it's not the US let's say construct of what a university experience is.
No, it's not.
Very different.
It's not Project X. It's not Blue Mountain State.
No, it's not. It's not. No. And I feel like with the party side, you did get to like get that part that you wanted.
I did. I really. I suck it out. Or I suck it out enough that I was able to really envelop myself in it. So I do appreciate all of the fun that I was able to have. Yeah. In that sense. So that's a great question. There's no chance you guys would have heard that otherwise. So that's huge.
Tried to get it. And to close university off.
Yeah.
What's your favorite memory? What's that one you're gonna be 50, 60 years old and you're gonna be sitting down and you're gonna remember with a smile?
And I want to think specifically about this one because there's a lot of the university experience that I've had, or a lot of UBC that my time at UBC that I've sincerely enjoyed, but it's not the college. It's not it. Like I've done talks and a lot of the stuff was solid, but if I want to think about the number one memory that I'm going to walk away with, and I was thinking about this even earlier today. Actually, I knew this before I even started talking. There was one trip, and this is when I know I've started to feel properly comfortable, like being here and doing everything that I have and going down to Friday Harbor. It was the trip that you and I went on down to Friday Harbor where we didn't make it on the ferry. On like sincerely. So I've gone down to Friday Harbor a number of times. I've brought a whole number of people, but the solidified, like the constant of my degree has been I'll get a bunch of people together and we'll go down to Friday Harbor. Like we're gonna do it for a day. It's fun. We get out of Vancouver. It's hard to leave like the campus and like the city in general, just because there's not too much outside in any direction. And if you do, it's a big deal. So renting a car was always like a major one, and you've been a major part of that. But genuinely, the thing I loved about that trip was we went down. We didn't put too much thought into it. We were like, this is a Tuesday. We want to go down. We want to enjoy ourselves. We want to have a nice day. and we got stuck at the border for like 6 hours or 3 or whatever. Way too long.
I've never been. I've always get checked. I
Oh
always
yeah,
get those security checks.
just cause.
Just cause, nothing to do with my nationality, but
No.
but that one I just couldn't understand.
It was.
I've never been home for 3 hours.
No, it was terrible, and it was like it was partially the line too because a bunch of people were trying to go down.
It was a mix.
It was a whole bunch of stuff. But once we got across, like you had your chest set. You had your chest set, and we went down to the donut house in Anacortes, and we sat down, we played chess, we had donuts and coffee, got maybe lunch down there, and then drove back up. Yeah. I like that was the whole day, but it was we didn't make the ferry. We didn't get to Friday Harbor. Like the car wasn't great, so like we had rented nicer cars before. But that trip, it was the casuality of it, and it was the first solidified in my head of like I am genuinely comfortable in all of the areas where I am in terms of friends, in terms of my ability to maneuver around a place, and I know I'm going to be good. So I want to say that was a big memory that I have that it holds that idea specifically.
Yeah, it's a really nice moment when you start feeling like home.
Yeah.
It can be hard. It can be hard as international students. It definitely.
Well, and that's one thing I think actually they don't even know right now. It's like both of you and I came here. We're not close to home. No. I'm gonna say you're coming here from Peru.
Yeah.
And then even from Massachusetts, it's
like Peru is like 8,000 kilometers, and from Mass, it's like 4.
Yeah, something like that. I know it's like 5,000 miles. So either way, yeah,
it's far. It's definitely far.
Yeah.
Time zones,
But building what we have here, I know for a fact that's helped to solidify this place as home, and that's one thing whenever I talk to people. Because I know even like my swim coach called me today and he's like, oh, are you thinking about coming back home, or do you want to stay there? And I'm like, one of my favorite parts about university, especially like going away and being here, is every person that I've met, every relationship that I've made, and this, I guarantee you can probably say the same. It's like, I did that. I built my community here and we built it together. Whereas back home, I know for a fact it's happenstance of situation. I know there's just it's what you were born into rather than what you actually created, and it's nice to be able to be comfortable in what you created.
No, it's really nice. Yeah, that's for sure. Like we knew no one here.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least like you came, I think, once.
Yeah, I visited with my dad once, and he was in a meeting. He didn't even see UBC before I showed up. I did a tour by myself for like 4 hours, and then we went home.
And
that was it.
No, for me, it was my first time in Canada was my first time at UBC. My first time at UBC was my first time in Canada.
Genuinely impressive.
It was orientation. I saw it in pictures.
It's impressive.
UBC, I thought, well, the pictures are really nice. When I see them in person, it's even better.
Oh, it didn't disappoint at all. Especially to our first weeks. I am incredibly glad for when we showed up too. Especially we had the proper amount of time to kind of sit down and take it all in the beginning.
Yeah, we're the last year that had 2 weeks of orientation.
Yeah.
And then they cut it out to 5 days.
It's insane. It's insane. I will always be thankful for that. Because it was so nice to be able to spend that time.
Yeah, I have some quick fire questions.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah. What's your favorite quality of a killer whale?
They're beautiful. Like they're the most striking creatures on the planet in my head. Like, well, because honestly, right, you can look at zebras or giraffes or tigers, and you're like, okay, like I recognize it. But when you see an orca, at least for me, I'm like, oh, like wow, like it is immediate sense of power. I think it's the eye patch for me, because the eye patch like stares into you. It's not their eyes, but it projects that like, hey, I'm watching you. That I think that's what I would say to start with. That and their compassion.
Here. You ruined my second question. It's about to be like, you can expand.
Yeah, I can.
How about psychological aspect, quality of a whale?
So the compassion aspect, and that's I can definitely dive into this because it's not just developed in compassion. It's right. I'm going to give a very like academic answer. Throughout history, the start of humans becoming a species is very contested as far as I'm concerned. And one of the biggest things that people will look to is the first time that humans stopped to help somebody who was injured. And so the first cast that was built, the first splint, X, Y, or Z. And you see this with killer whales all the time in terms of them helping out the lesser of the pod, the amount that they give to each other. It's very much a community. Each of the pods themselves, or at least a good portion of them, are enveloped in this idea of mutual sharing to an extent. When one whale like makes a catch, it's not that one whale's catch. It's all of them. And having that, whether or not it's compassion or whether or not it's survival, whatever it is, it's beautiful. And I do really appreciate that value that's ingrained into killer whale culture.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. If you could wake up tomorrow,
yes,
having gained any one quality or ability related to the study of orcas, what would it be?
Related to the
study.
To the study.
So
not orcas themselves, the study.
To the study.
Oh, this is easy. This is a skill that can be learned, but being able to recognize them. There are some people that with a blink of an eye can tell you what whale, like who a whale is. And if I could pick up that ability for the majority or one population or whatever it is, now that would be huge. That's a goal.
Like, I know who you are.
Yeah, be like, Alki, Slick, that's Granny. What are you talking like that would be insane.
And now just because you asked for it, which will be the quality of an orca that you'd like to have?
I would love to hold my breath for more than 20 minutes. No, well, and like this is specific, like 20 minutes, like to be able to either the breath holding or the speed in terms of physiological, because of two things. One, if I could hold my breath for that long, then I could swim with them for that long. That would be cool. And the speed itself, I think it would be genuinely fun to like swim Burrard Inlet for shits. I'm just gonna go to North Van and back real quick. Have that be an hour swim. Those two for sure. I would have to say
that would be fun.
That would be a blast.
That would be fun.
That'd be genuinely enjoyable, and also just overwhelming. It's bad as a swimmer.
How long do you think it will take to swim to North Van?
That's a good question. Okay, so it's way bigger than you think it is. That's number one. It has to be more than 5 miles.
Right?
It has to be.
It has to be more than 5 miles.
Maybe 5 to 6 hours.
That would be insane.
I have to think. I'd be interested. I after this, I'll put this in the description. But like we'll see how long it is, and then do the measurements, because that's a great question.
Can we do it?
No. Very, very, very slowly. Could we swim from here to Jericho ourselves? Absolutely not. Or from Jericho to North Van, like in that water? No. In the pool? Maybe. I have enough faith in us that we could pull that off. Not in the open water. They're not with all those cargo ships.
Fair.
Dangerous. Dangerous.
To finish it off, any questions for me?
What has been, so this is fair. What has been your favorite, I'll ask you two. What has been your favorite orca thing that I've either told you about or you figured out yourself, or something about the community or even the spaces that we visited that you enjoy personally, not because of me, but that you properly take a little bit of joy out of?
There's been a lot.
Yeah, it's fair.
We've done a lot for sure, but I think the main one is definitely the trips that we've taken to San Juan Island. Fair. I think those are beautiful. It's just not a time to like escape reality for a little bit, because it really worked like that. But it was also time to get to know you.
Yeah, honestly. Of course.
Like the thing is that living with Fred and like being friends with Fred, I really, when I took those trips, I got to see bits and pieces of his essence in like the things we did, like when we went for the donuts or we went for the nachos, or like the stories that you like to tell in the car, or the songs that we would play in the car, and then the first time that was beautiful, and then the second time I'll hear those stories again.
They're like, oh, this is a consistent thing.
Yeah, no, but every time it was really nice to hear, and just to see, because at first it was me interacting with your world, and the world of orcas, because I was getting to know orcas because
of course.
I had no idea what a killer whale was. Like I knew what it was, like of course, but not really. Like no,
there's no reason.
You want me to talk about it? I can't. Right, I
fair.
can't. But but yeah, no. And then after the first trip, it was more about to see how people perceive Fred when he tells the stories.
Interesting.
So like the first time is okay, sure, I'm learning how to perceive Fred.
Yeah.
I'm learning about orcas. I'm going to the Whale Museum. I'm starting to see things about his personality in the places we visit and the stories he tells. But then after that, it was more of like realizing how people perceive you.
Interesting.
And like how like I was just more of like a spectator in the when you were telling these stories because I already knew them.
Oh yeah, fair.
So yeah, I gotta say that it really made me understand not only orcas but you in such a more deeper level.
That's fantastic.
Because I'm not getting to know you only through my eyes, but also through the eyes of others. And I gotta say that that's my favorite memory related to all this
the realm
and orcas and you and
for sure
and etc.
That's fantastic. Well, I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate the idea of that as well. That's absolutely huge. And for this, I think this would be funny if you had to tell anybody, if you had to give them a trailer of what it's like to take a trip with Fred to San Juan Island.
Oh,
I just a little trailer. I feel like people would. I would imagine I'm going to go with some of the people that are watching this at some point in time because I know his family, friends, but even more so, fans or otherwise.
You wake up very early.
It's a good start.
If you're from the United States, you're probably good. But if you're international, get your passport ready. You gotta get everything ready. Mm-hmm. Depends where you're coming. If you're coming from Seattle, you're probably good. If you're coming from Vancouver, just get ready for a little bumpy ride. Mm-hmm. But no, honestly, it's usually fine. Now that you got the Nexus.
It's no problem.
Fine. You're gonna get into the car. You're gonna have a really good playlist. Fred has some very specific songs for certain parts of the trip, so those are very enjoyable.
Yes.
For me, the favorites once we cross the border, playing "Born in the USA."
Oh yeah,
I love playing that song crossing the border.
Necessary.
Yeah, nothing to do with me, but whatever.
But it's a good song. Gotta love Bruce.
Then you're gonna stop for some donuts. Don't have breakfast.
No, that's a dumb idea.
Don't have breakfast.
We'll feed you.
Yeah, and when you get the donuts, get like one.
Yeah.
Maybe half. if you have a small stomach, maybe half. Mm-hmm. Then you're gonna get to the most beautiful ferry ride ever.
Yes,
honestly, I haven't taken many, but it's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. Like, and hopefully go on a good day, because it's just the view is awesome. Oh, it's just absurd. Insane. It's insane. And then you get to San Juan Island. You get to see the Whale Museum, which is absolutely beautiful.
It's lovely.
Small and cozy. I really like it. That's honestly, you learn a lot. You learn a lot there. And I gotta say, you sit down for an amazing lunch at what's the place?
Haley's.
And you get the most amazing nachos ever. And then after that, I gotta say, throughout all this trip, you're gonna get amazing stories about how Fred got to discover this place, how he got to discover orcas, and how he keeps interacting with this majestic island. Yeah,
that's quite. It's quite a tour guide, properly.
that's. I'll be like that's basically your day.
That's a good trail.
And if you take the car, and I would recommend you to encourage Fred to take the car.
Necessary.
Going through the islands.
Oh yeah, Matt.
I've gotten some pretty good shots there.
Oh, it's really nice. Quite the special place. No, that's all. I think that's the only question that I have for you then. I think it's a good place to end it off. I do have to say thank you though. No, I know for a fact, for anybody that doesn't properly know by the end of this, Bruno came to me and said, "Hey, I'd love to sit down and just ask you a bunch of questions for your audience." And I can't thank you enough for thinking about engaging in that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was through a project I had for one of the best classes I've taken at UBC. Communications.
Huge.
And that's how we actually have another version of this that it's 10 minutes.
Yeah, very short.
Very short, very similar.
To the point.
But very, very short.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for having me. I knew I wanted to be in one of the podcasts, and I think that this is what the viewers are really going to appreciate.
I think they will too. I think there's a lot of stories that we came out of this, and I'm excited to hear what they think as well. 100%. Well, thank you so much once again, everybody, for listening. Again, I'm Fred the Orca Man here with my roommate Bruno, and have a good one. Boom! Easy money.
Puro pão. Claro.